Senator. Thank you. Senator McGrath.
Mr Deputy President. It gives me pleasure to speak in this debate because I want to highlight that Labor were in power allegedly between 2007 and 2013. They were in power, they were in government, they were in ministerial leather, but they're actually incapable of making a decision in relation to make a decision on the submarine fleet. And their failure to make a decision, their failure to think about the future defence needs of this country has risked a credibility gap between the ageing Collins fleet and the future submarines. And now Labor want to spend another 5 years on a tender process. Now, it's rich of Labor, it's typically hypocritical of Labor to call for an open tender process, given that Prime Minister Rudd back in 2007 said that Labor would bypass a tender process for submarines. And even Senator Conroy has conceded in a masterclass in understatement regarding submarines that it didn't go as fast as everybody wanted. In fact, it didn't go anywhere under Labor. They did nothing for 6 years while they had infighting amongst themselves. Now, in terms of their record on the defence budget, they broke its commitment to guarantee an average of 3% real growth in defence spending to 2017-2018 and 2.2% real growth to 2013 to fund the promises made in their 2009 Defence White Paper. Defence spending under Labor fell to 1.56% of GDP in 2012-13. This is the lowest level of defence funding since 1938. That was before the outbreak of the Second World War. And the budget for 2012-2013 they cut by 10.5%, and that was the biggest cut to defence spending since the Korean War. So for Labor to come into this place and reach out with their alleged hand of bipartisanship, actually what they do is they reach out with a hand of hypocrisy and a hand of insincerity in relation to the submarines. Now, they want to talk about a fair and proper process. I was writing the words down while the Labor senators were speaking, Mr Deputy President, and they want to talk about a fair deal for taxpayers. Well, if we want to talk about a fair deal for taxpayers, we can talk about what Labor did in relation to debt. We can talk about what Labor left here, left on the ministerial desks and actually left on the credit cards and in the saving accounts of Australians, and that is the huge debt that Labor left. Now, that the Independent Parliamentary Budget Office stated in mid-2014 that without action Australia's debt will grow at one of the fastest rates in the developed world. Now, we are currently paying $1 billion a month in interest payments. That's over $12 billion a year for those senators opposite who aren't very good with counting with their shoes on, and that is enough to build a world-class teaching hospital in every capital city, enough to finish the duplication of the Pacific Highway, and it is around actually half of the defence budget. It's about the same amount as government spends on aged care. It's more than the cost of the pharmaceutical benefits scheme. It's more than the cost of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, and it's more than the cost of higher education spending. So for Labor to come in here and talk about what we're doing in relation to the submarines is actually disappointing and hypocritical, because what we've got to do is we've got to try and clean up the mess that Labor has left behind and ensure that we get the debt down so that we deliver for Australian taxpayers better services, but we also deliver for Australian taxpayers a submarine fleet that actually does deliver value for taxpayers. And what we want to do in terms of the acquisition strategy for future submarines, based on a competitive evaluation process, is actually to provide a pathway for Australian industry to maximise its involvement in the program while not compromising on capability, cost, schedule or risk. And Australia is going to need an international partner to deliver this program. France, Germany and Japan have all emerged as potential international partners, and they will be invited to participate in the competitive evaluation program that will assess their ability to partner with Australia to develop our future submarines. Now, as part of this evaluation process, Defence will seek proposals from potential partners for pre-concept designs, options for design and build overseas in Australia and/or a hybrid approach, and costs and schedules for each option. The future submarine program will involve an investment of around $50 billion over its full life, and it's very important that we deliver value for money for Australian taxpayers, and that's what this government is going to do, rather than spitting out press releases for dirty, grubby politics, which is what Labor are currently doing.
Orders, Senator.
Thank you, Mr Deputy.
Senator McGrath.